One of the key factors to ensuring a successful day is the timing of the event. A person who helps keep this on track and can advise on all the etiquette associated with a wedding is a toastmaster. So, Tony, the speech is a very crucial part of the wedding, a very enjoyable part of the wedding. What is the typical format for them?
First speech, normally, should be to the bride and bridegroom, a toast to the bride and bridegroom. That's why we've come. They're getting married. That's the first speech, the first toast. Usually given by an old friend of the family who knows the bride well or has known her all her life and knows the groom well. And it says really father, doesn't it? That usually says father of the bride, and it usually is, but not always. The second speech should be a thanks, a thank you or a response to that particular toast. Not only to thank the person who's made it, but to thank the guest for drinking it so heartily. And that should come from the bride and the bridegroom. Now you note I said there, the bride and the bridegroom. Invariably it's the bridegroom, but no, not always. And it can be both, as we had one instance when they did it in Rhyme down in Southampton, went really well. Or in a case I had at the Pump Rooms in Bath, when the bride got up and made a speech and the groom never said a word. So that can happen. And then we usually finish up, traditionally and in the etiquette of weddings, with the best man responding on their behalf. Again, I've had the chief bridesmaids do that, but usually it's the best man. He responds on their behalf, and we expect him to be a little bit funny and put a few funnies in and all that sort of thing, but that's the speech you've got to be more careful of than any other. Sometimes people want other speeches, and that's when I think they've got to be very careful.
Tailored to the occasion, I think that's the key, isn't it? That you're doing what suits your wedding, your occasion, your family, the people who are there, just to ensure that everybody enjoys it.
Exactly. We tend to have our speeches at the end of the meal. But nowadays, again, we're talking to people and saying, when do you want them? And they look at you and say, when can we have them? Now, what we must remember is this. If you're going to do speeches at the beginning of the wedding, they've got to be very tightly controlled on time, because the kitchens want to know exactly when they're going to serve a meal, and there's nothing worse than going to a fabulous wedding where a fabulous meal has been ruined because the speeches went on. So you've got to say to people, if you're going to have the speeches beforehand, make sure they are to a pretty strict timetable. If you're going to have speeches that you think may go on, then you're advised to go and have them at the end of the meal. I would add also, by the way, I've had weddings where people have done one speech after the first course, another speech after the second, and then maybe the last speech after the third. Sometimes the father of the bridegroom might want to say a few words, and I don't think it's out of the way if he wants to. And what I always recommend there is I say to the best man, when you finish a speech, why don't you go out on a toast to the parents? Ladies and gentlemen, without the parents we wouldn't be here today, so let's drink a hearty toast and a big thank you to the parents. It then means that you can turn around and say, ladies and gentlemen, the father of the bridegroom would like to respond on behalf of all the parents. It flows. The other point I would always make is this. When you're making a speech, speak loudly or speak clearly, but make sure the lady at the far side of the room can hear it. Because if everybody hears the speech, it's a good one.